royalty. Recognize royalty. 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 Recognize royalty. Recognize royalty. I recognize it. I recognize passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. Never just the man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand? From the texture of the hand, hard at work. Are you hard at work, working with the man? Don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. As gold already blings from the eyes that prizes no sins. Recognize the kings overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I see it. Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty. Sunrise royally. Sitting on top of the world, I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Morally, we pop them things till we stop the impurity. We pop them just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I reel in men when I went out fishing. I'll tell you why they rocked the boat. Cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? Choose the Jews' crucifixion and refuse recognition at son child's christening. In the mix, amid some insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back above me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too.
I can feel you.
I feel it.
I can see you.
I can see it.
Now
I recognize now.
Royal to these eyes.
Your royalty.
I can see you.
I see it.
I can love again.
And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion.
Royalty.
Royalty. Recognize royalty, gotta recognize it. Recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty.
I can feel.
Recognize royalty.
I can see.
Recognize royalty.
Now I recognize
royalty.
Royal to these eyes.
Royalty.
I can see.
Recognize royalty.
I can love
Recognize royalty.
Now I
Recognize it.
Royalty.
I recognize passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. Never just the man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand? From the texture of the hand, hard at work. Are you hard at work, working with the man? Don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. As gold already blings from the eyes that prizes no sins. Recognize the kings overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it.
I can see.
Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty.
I can see.
I see it.
I can love again.
Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion.
Royalty.
Recognize royalty. Sunrise.
used as a...
Hey, peace. What's happening, everyone? What now, deal with?
Recognize royalty. Recognize it. Recognize royalty. Gotta recognize it. Recognize royalty. Like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty.
I can feel.
Recognize royalty.
I can see.
Recognize royalty.
Now I recognize
Royalty.
royalty inside.
Royalty.
I can see.
Recognize royalty.
I can love
Recognize
again.
royalty.
Now I recognize
Recognize it.
royalty.
Recognize
Royalty.
passion.
Welcome. Remember to like the video, subscribe, turn on notifications. All of that helps. Blessings. Let's get started.
Oh, so the thing is, right? Did you say that you was proud of slavery? Like you glad slavery happened so that we could be like where we are now in America?
No, I said I can recognize the blessing in it for me.
So it's a blessing that we went through slavery.
He said a blessing in it for him. Basically saying you niggas
Thank
can
you,
go
sir.
back to Africa right now if y'all love it.
I'm just asking him if he said that. He said it. Yo, that's what you said.
No, I said what I said. I said I see it as a blessing for me.
So you agree with it? Like you cool with it happening? All that?
Am I cool with history the way history happened?
Yeah,
Yes. I'm not mad at history at all. I would find myself, it's like it would be kind of like barking at a bird. A dog barking at a bird.
I understand
Like,
that. I
it would
understand
be
you can't
silly.
change what. I understand you can't change what happened, but you're okay with what they did because a lot of people had to die.
I think from some of my studies, I've learned that one of the laws of success is acceptance. When you accept something, you really are able to move forward and kind of progress a lot easier than if you fight against it. Especially something like history. I'm not mad at history at all, and I don't see how I'm going to allow anyone to make me mad about history. I wasn't involved in it. I didn't have a say in
We're not
it.
saying you should
All
be
I
mad
Let him
about
talk,
it.
Kent. He talked himself into oblivion. Let him talk.
That's about it. We can build.
No, we're not
Hold
saying
on. Hey, Kent, let me say this real quick. The very fact that Uncle Kunkun think that to have a certain feeling about your ancestors getting enslaved, he actually equates it with being mad. No, that's saying that we connect to our ancestors, right? And we feel their pain. Any reasonable social group, it's the human thing to do, bro. It's what makes us human, dude. We're not talking about out of your mind, black out, just run through the wall. That's not what we're talking about here. We're simply saying having enough empathy, right, for your ancestors and what they went through and the role they played in building North America. It's a normal process, even of elephants, right? When one of them die, will stand around for weeks looking at the corpse, and they have feelings towards that. The fact that you think that getting mad over situations makes no sense is crazy. You control that. We're civilized. We control that. We understand when it happened, how it happened, right? But it brings up certain emotions, and those emotions allow us to know that all the programming of westernizing didn't work. All of it didn't fit, bro. That's all we're saying here. That we still feel where we came from. That don't mean we gotta move back. That don't mean we gotta do none of that. That's simply saying that this whole conversation we had were different segments of emotions. Shep and them argued that they was mad and hurt based off of people getting enslaved. See, people seem to miss that element of what they really were saying. They was feeling the pain of their ancestors, bro. That's what that was. It was an outcry of their feelings. You might not have understood it. I know how you took it. Yeah, they got them. Nah, dog. They was letting you know that they still human, and they felt that experience, right, that human before them went through that just so happens to be a part of their gene pool, bro. So for you to say, I'm not gonna get mad, nigga, you need to be mad, bro. No, out of respect, I'm not gonna call you niggas. We take that back because you asked me not to say that. And I have enough discipline not to say that. But I'm simply saying your behavior is very, very out of order and you're suffering from PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome, or Stockholm syndrome, when the victim acts out as the victimizer. You act like you was the one slacking niggas with the whip. Yo, that's how you act.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you need to be over the top, bro. I'm saying like, knock it off, dude. That's all I'm saying. Like, bro, we don't need you to be mad. Simply acknowledge, yo, what your family members went through, bro. Like, that's not hard, bro.
And
Can I respond?
And I'm not even saying you should be mad because we can't tell you how your emotions should flow. We don't want you to be miserable around here, but you can't equate slavery with a blessing, bro.
Right, that's some fucking idiotic shit.
If it's history, it's history.
Degree.
That's a good point.
Again, I said I feel like I'm blessed. I didn't say that they were blessed or what they went through. But anyway, you know, for some reason,
explain that for me.
Can I just speak? Let me just get out. Let me just
feel like you're blessed, bro. That's the part I really want to hear. And then you can explain all that. How in the hell do you think you're blessed, bro? Come on, American Dream. We got all night.
I'm trying to, but I know, but so you don't have to keep cutting me off if we have all night. But yeah, man, I hate when y'all just cut me off for no reason. You know what I mean? Like in terms of just to respond to what you said. I got it back. Just to respond to what you said. You know, for me and my ancestors, it's as if for some reason in your head, when you think of your ancestors, you only think of slavery. Like my ancestors is the time period of my ancestorship is way longer than that 400 years of slavery that we experienced. I'm sure. Can I speak, please? I have way more ancestors.
That was a nigga on your side.
Can I speak, please? I wasn't cutting in when y'all were talking. Can I speak? I don't care who it was. Just let me speak.
Speak.
Like, you know,
you may speak
I'm
now.
sure my according to evolution, with which Ankh believes in, my ancestorship goes back millions of years, not just the 400 years that we were. Can I speak, please? Jesus Christ, what's the matter with y'all?
Your ancestors go back.
What is the matter with y'all? Yes, it goes back to the beginning of time, and I'm asking y'all. Like, I don't think about the ones that existed 800 years ago. I don't think about my ancestors that existed 2,000 years ago. Shut your mouth and let me speak, dog. Stop cutting me off.
Hold on.
Why are you so undisciplined, Ken?
Because I'm not disciplined.
Is this why you
I'm not fucking disciplined.
Is this why you keep changing? Like, stop. Listen, bro. Listen, dude.
No, I'm just
the show has my name in the title. The show has my name in the title. Can I get out what I have to say?
No.
The show has my name in the title. Can I get out what I have to say?
Millions of years. Hold up. Millions of years, right? You're still talking about humans, or are you talking about other animals at this point? What are you talking about?
According to evolution, our heritage goes back to the beginning of time. Your heritage does not go back to Africa and African people alone. It goes back to whatever animals those people evolved from as well. They are your ancestors too, right? So all I'm telling you, even if we just keep it in the phase of Homo sapiens, right? Like, my heritage does not just go back those 400 to 400 years. And when I think of my ancestors, I'm not going to think of my ancestors as if they were all just slaves. No, I'm not going to do that to myself. Why would I do that to myself? I'm sure before those 400 years, I had ancestors who may have been kings, but you don't see me here running around acting like I was a king. I'm not going to do. Why am I thinking about them? I don't think about what my great-grandparents were doing. I'm not that concerned. Why would I be worried about what they were doing 400 years? I just don't think about it. It has nothing to do with who I am and what I want for my life and for my children. And it makes no difference to me. And the main thing I have to do is focus on who I am now and where I am. And I'm sure that's exactly what those ancestors did. I think we may be the only one in our line of ancestors. We may be the only ones that do this silly thing of looking back and trying to connect with your ancestors and trying to do it like it's kind of silly, right? It's a silly idea. Y'all need to figure out who you are and move from there. Like this ancestor worship that y'all do is maybe the problem that you're consulting. Y'all are looking backwards. Ancestor worship.
Y'all again.
Ancestor worship.
We don't do that. We don't do that. Pseudo killers don't do that.
Let me tell you this last sentence, Ken. Ancestor worship has you looking backwards. Ancestor worship has you looking backwards.
Go ahead.
Ancestor worship is backwards.
Okay.
Now go ahead.
Are you done?
Go ahead, Sosa.
Hold up. Are you done?
Nah, yeah, go ahead, man.
I said go ahead, bro.
Pseudo killers. I mean, maybe you know what I mean, but we don't do no ancestral worship over here.
Africans do. The main part of African religion.
Okay,
is
hold on, Dream.
worship.
Hold on, Dream. Do you see this right here, brother?
Yes.
What's this?
That's a $20 bill.
Who the hell is on this $20 bill, bro? Do you know?
Which one is that? Is that Jackson?
It's Jackson.
God, you know your money.
Maybe I'm just retarded. Maybe I've lost my mind. But the guy is the ancestors, right, of the people that formulated this country, or the other way around, however you want to put it. They give honor to this. It's nothing wrong with that, dude. No. See, now you tried to trick us with the trickum shit.
That's not why he's on that bill. He's not on that bill because he's your ancestor. Cut it out.
But at a certain point,
hold on, Kent.
Don't go on a soliloquy about that silliness, that's not why he's on the dollar bill. You're
doing exactly what you said Kenneth was doing. I didn't do that to you.
I'm sorry, sir. You're absolutely right.
Sir. Thank you. I want a smooth ass show where it's slow down and even where I can beat you up. Okay? So I'm simply saying that the dollar bill is a representation of the ones that are honored in their community, bro. It's very clear. Okay? Even the Christians, in all their infinite wisdom, they're honoring ancestors, those who come before them. So when you give reverence to your grandmother that's dead, bro, like everybody does it. Like when the great grandmother, when a birthday come around, everybody talk about it. And Thanksgiving, we give reverence to those people that were in our community. Martin Luther King, it's nothing wrong with that. Here's your trickery in the whole thing. Nobody's running around saying, stay focused on your ancestors that got caught up in the slave trade. First of all of our ancestors didn't get caught up in the slave trade. So we would never say that. That makes no sense. We're simply saying your attitude towards the ones that did get caught is abhorrent. It's what we're saying. We're not saying stay focused. We're not even saying use history as a weight. We know that over here. History can be used as a weight that wear your ass down. So we all understand that. That's why we the pseudo killers. But honoring and reverencing, like my mom, it's my mother, right? She's no longer with us. But I honor that. I know she wasn't living for her damn birthday on an 11, bro. But the memories I have, right, on the post, her sisters joined in. Her children joined in. It was a moment for me, bro, to reflect on a woman that gave birth to me. Ain't nothing wrong with that, dog. Like, you're not going to convince me that there's something wrong with giving due respect and honor to the woman that was there for me. The first one to feed me on earth. The first one to give me schooling, proper instruction. Ain't no way in the world I'm supposed to not think about that. She is primary in my understanding of how I was to be a human. And I will give her the most high respect. The same with my father. He was primary in my development as a black male in North America. He was there. They both show me how I'm supposed to treat my kids. And I honor and I reverence that, bro. They ain't coming back to me in a fucking dream and a vision. They ain't flying. I don't hear their voice where everybody can hear, yo, but they talk to me right here, bro. Like, it's always right here, those conversations, man. And whenever I run across those type of situations, it's right here. That's the same thing that African people do. Matter of fact, they were so connected to their environment in their history, right? That it was people that were far greater and older than them, that the story stayed with them and they brought them forward, dog. That's all it is. The fact that you can't bring story forward shows that you were involved in the most treacherous thing known to humanity, and that's the slave trade, bro. It has erased your memory of even giving up about those who got put up. That's my point, bro. Now, knock all that off.
Right. You know, like what you said was very probably likely true. You know, that you honor your mom, and in a way that a lot of us don't, and you have that same honor for your dad in a way a lot of us don't.
And my great grandmother, and my great aunt.
Right. In a way where others of your siblings may not. Right? You may be the one of your siblings that honors them more than anyone else, right? But then that absolutely doesn't make you their favorite, right? Even though you're the one that honors them the most, they may still have another sibling that's still their favorite. So what I'm saying is, you know what I mean? I agree with you. There's nothing wrong with honoring them the way you do, right? But all I'm saying is there's also nothing wrong with not honoring them the way you do, right? Because people can honor them in different ways, which they may appreciate even more than the way you're doing it, right? And you know what I mean? And they absolutely can. And we can observe that in our lives. Some of us are pissed off about that in our lives today. So for us to speak for our ancestors and say what would or would not make our ancestors disappointed or upset is kind of crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because we can't speak for our parents today. So that's all I'm saying, bro. The fact that I may agree with you. It's good for you, Ankh, given who you are and your experience of life. It may be good for you to honor your mom, your grandmom, your granddad, your ancestors. That may be good for you, given you and who you are, given your experiences. But given me and given my experiences, that may not be who I am and how I express who I am. And it doesn't make my mom or my grandma or my granddad or my ancestors any less happy with me than they are with you. In some cases, they may be even more happy.
Okay, but look, hey,
whoa, Ken, hold on.
I like that. I like that.
No, he tricked you, Corey.
He talking to y'all. He talking to y'all.
Yeah, he did it again. He did it again. See the trick?
Y'all niggas tonight.
Look, my fault, Chef, as you about to say, look, here's the trick. No one said that American Dream should honor those who was caught up in a slave trade a certain way. No one said that. Everybody has their own individual way, right? As a matter of fact, you might be one of those people that don't even talk about it. You just be about it. Like you push forward in your daily person or just as a dad, right? And the way you move in your business and the way you strive, right? That might be an honor of your ancestors, and you never say a word about it, you never tell them about it. What we're saying here is, then tell us what it is then, bro. Tell me, how do you feel about those who lost their lives that were directly your ancestors in the transcontinental slave trade? Give us your version, your rendition of how you connect to them. Now, you can't trick me. You can trick Corey. So now we get to really hear how you feel about them, bro. Now, there you go. Let me hear.
Hold on.
Now he got the floor. Hold on, Chef. Let me have
Let me get the floor, Chef. I just want to hear it.
He never even alluded to that.
He did. He said that this is what he said. Nope. This, Chef. This is what he said, Chef. He said he tried to make it seem as though that I was remotely, or Kent was remotely, or anybody was trying to make him feel a certain way about his damn ancestors and do it the way that we do it, or do it the way that I do it is the best way to do it. Nope, that's the trick.
He wasn't mad. He said he don't have an emotional attachment to him.
That's not okay. So we want to know, what is it that you have for those people? Can you explain that for us then? Because it don't gotta be an emotional. I agree. It don't got to be nothing, but I just want to hear it since we're in the conversation, since we've been down the slave roads and all that. Please explain to me, how is it that you feel about the people that walk before you then? I just want to hear it from you, because I'm hearing something else, but go ahead, bro.
You mean, how do I feel about anyone that experienced slavery?
Your ancestors
directly related to you.
Your ancestors.
Directly related to me?
Like maybe your great grandmother or something like that.
Yeah, how do you feel?
Or your grandmother, if your mom died, that's your ancestor, right?
Lineage,
your mom or your grandmother.
Lineage, yo,
yeah.
Your people, yo.
I mean,
he understands.
You know, slavery is a horrible thing. I don't want to experience slavery. Slavery is a horrible thing. Like, if I had to think about it, I'd have to say, you know, I feel their pain. That's a horrible thing. No human being should experience slavery. It's a horrible thing. I'm not here saying I condone slavery, and I wish more people could be.
I ask you how you feel about them, bro. Don't flip it. Keep it right there.
What do you mean,
how do you feel about them
and
their experience, yo? That's what I'm asking.
They went through a horrible experience. They went through a horrible experience. It's a horrible thing.
Thank you, bro. That's all I wanted to hear. Now give me that, bro.
That's the
Why do you feel blessed? Because your ancestors was caught up in slavery and it gave you the opportunity to be here. Why is that a blessing, bro?
I think you just looking in retrospect when you say that. When they talk about the blessing.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to look in retrospect and say that, you know what, we on the richest. We happen to be on the richest continent on the planet, right? The most powerful continent on the planet, and a lot of it is due to our ancestors, right?
So you gonna help them out, Corey? You helping them out?
No, I'm not.
I'm talking about the hindsight. I'm talking about hindsight.
I want to hear that guy.
Yeah, but
I know what you're saying, Corey.
He said this the other day. He said it the other day, and I remember, and it rubbed me wrong the other day. But you know, sometimes
it rubbed me wrong today.
We had a conversation already before. Let me ask you this: do you feel blessed to be where you are right now?
No.
Blessing is like I
feel fortunate. Hold on. First of all, I feel fortunate. I feel fortunate to be on the panel, right? I feel fortunate to have people that would actually sit around and listen to me. And I feel very fortunate that people actually get something out of the conversations, man. I got an audience for the last 10 years, and I appreciate the followers through all my stages of growth and development, man. I just feel fortunate, man. I think that, we talked about it, Corey. We talked about it, Sosa, not thinking we was going to make it past 25. But go ahead.
Yeah, but that's a yes, dog. I mean, I actually...
Nah, when we
say... You changed blessed to fortunate, but you said, yeah, you feel fortunate, right?
Yeah, I feel fortunate, absolutely.
Okay, but what are the circumstances that got you where you are, though? You see what I'm saying? If you're fortunate to be where you are, then you have to also acknowledge all the circumstances that got you to be where you are, though.
You mean even the slavery part, correct?
Yeah.
I'm not, but that's the point, though. But my point is,
you're not grateful for slavery.
No, listen, but the reality is that I would be in the same place if not for them crazy niggas underdeveloped in Africa. Like there's no once you see a ship go by, then you're like, oh shit, what the hell they got on top of that? And if left to your own devices, you're gonna try to do it, bro. Like I told you, the Egyptians knew nothing. They didn't have the chariot. The Hittites come and ride with horses. They had these 4-wheel chariots, right? A rough ride. You couldn't shoot them off the back of that mother. They could just move troops, right? They took them off. They reverse engineered it. They cut it in half. They added a shock absorber to it. They added armor around it, right? The shock absorber, right, allowed 2 people to be in there. One on the back shooting shit out you. I mean, stable going over rough terrain like this. Boom, boom. The shock absorber. They added that. They modified it, yo. The African would have modified the goddamn boat, ship, canoe. Think about that. So I'm saying the fact that they constantly fought against that. That's why yesterday's conversation was valuable for me and people listening, right? It was more of to show you how they purposefully underdeveloped Africa. Read the book by Walter Rodney. They purposely scramble for the resources of the indigenous people without asking them. Right? Why would they undevelop Africa? That's a conspiracy. No, you underdevelop Africa so that the people themselves can't take advantage of their own resources. That's called colonialism.
Same thing with Iraq and Afghanistan. You know what I'm saying?
But look, Corey, you see when you give us the same technology that you give people that have advanced, we do the same. Like that dude on your picture right there.
Mm-hmm.
We do the same shit they was doing.
Yeah, right, man. That's what I was saying. The people who gonna persevere is they gonna persevere in any circumstance. They always gonna be the ones who stand out. Always. Right. They're gonna be that anyway.
I don't think the question is not would you be able to do it any other way. It's questions are in life you end up where you end up.
Right. That's why.
Period. All the other shit is delete.
A victim of circumstances.
Right. So let's not act like that's the only way we can end up where we at.
You can wake up and say, "Damn, I'm glad I'm right here," or you can wake up and shit and be like, "God damn."
Yeah,
but it's niggas that ain't like living like us right now. It's niggas like on the street right now.
I'm not. Don't make it.
Everybody ain't living like us. Everybody not living like us right now.
And there's more.
It's way more poor niggas out here in the streets than it is us niggas, yo.
No, it's way more poor. It's way more poor white people than it is black people, because one thing it's the numbers. So it's like almost 200 million of them. There's only 40 million of us. Most black people get up and go to and take that, and they got a business and they go to work every morning. Most black people, they law-abiding citizens. The overwhelming majority of black people are well-to-do, law-abiding citizens. When you know what I'm saying? When you're talking about, you know, you can think of some white people that live in your town or city like do a way worse than you. It's a trailer park like about 4 miles away from my house. It's a trailer park, man. You know what I'm saying? Like niggas in the projects that live the other direction 4 miles away, they living better than the motherfuckers in the trailer park. So you know what I mean? Like I think, you know, like I said, people gonna persevere. The ones that's gonna persevere is gonna persevere. We talked about you read the book by Hakeem Olajuwon, right? You see how he grew up in the projects, right? Brother grew up in the project, had to bum his way around to make it through college, right? Didn't even think he was gonna make it through college. Was a drug addict and everything, but he ended up being a astrophysicist, man, in the end, a mathematician and an astrophysicist.
It took a lot of luck, though. You gotta admit, reading that book, it took a lot of
things. It's the circumstances.
For him to
What's the best country for African American to prosper? If you had to pick a country, what do you think for an African American, a black person of African American, a person of African descent?
I think the world is African Americans.
No. There's some places that are just better. Like we can't do that.
I don't know what's trying to your last point though. So I'm confused by your last point. There's a lot of history in between slavery and now, dog. Like they even say without slavery, you're basically saying what he's saying. That without slavery, we would not be in this position. That's a bunch of bullshit. That's bullshit.
Bullshit.
I'm not acknowledging anything.
You know that's bullshit, though, right?
What I'm saying is that you are where you end up.
No, that's not the. No, that's the easy way out.
The planet don't focus on slavery, nigga. You could have dropped off on a spaceship.
No, that's it. No.
Hey, Sosa, you know the opposite. You know the opposite of that, though. You're saying that if we didn't end up in slavery, you just automatically thinking that we wasn't even gonna be good.
If we didn't end up,
can I say this?
Listen to this point.
Yeah, let's jump in. Sosa, go ahead, finish out, and let Sosa jump in. Go ahead, Sosa.
I was saying, there's no argument being made to where I would end up if there's no other argument. It's just you're here and this accessing life as you are where you are now. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and I think the key word that was used, American Dream used the word blessing, and Unc used the word fortunate, right? Blessing, you know, entails God, right?
Right.
that it was some type of divine it was some type of divine benefit that you get, right? That's why you're here. He said it. He looked at it as a blessing. Unc turns around and calls it fortune. Fortune is fortunate has to do with luck, right?
Yeah.
Happenstance. Just I'm happy that by luck, right? By just the way of, you know what I mean?
With a dice roll.
With the way the dice roll, I'm fortunate.
Now you talking my language, Chef.
Right. That so it is the two. Now American Dream could mean the same thing as Unc, right? Mm-hmm. He can explain it because we do mix the word blessing up, right? People, non-religious people, when they use the word blessing, right, in a secular sense, it means the same thing as fortune.
I agree with you.
Right. So I mean, y'all can, expand those points out. You know what I mean, and see if y'all meet in the middle, or is there a distinction in what y'all saying?
And it is a difference.
Yeah, but Corey cut him off though. 20 minutes ago, he was.
He was able to study a little bit.
He didn't study a little bit now. We ain't gonna get the real answer now.
Said it yesterday.
He already said it. We had a conversation before with Corey.
No, but I didn't hear it. Go ahead, American Dream.
What do you mean, American Dream?
Explain that. What do you mean that you're blessed, right? That our ancestors got enslaved to get you here. Go ahead, explain that.
Well, I think what Sosa said was really on point. That's why I was just sitting back, because I think Sosa did a great job of explaining it, and I'm hoping people were listening to him when he was speaking. I think Corey was saying some really important things as well. So and I was just listening because they were saying things that I didn't even think about myself, and
right.
and they
backed them up.
It helped to strengthen what I felt, and then when Chef said what he said about being fortunate or being a blessing, that was like mind blowing to me. It was like just a really interesting idea.
Which one would you say, fortunate or blessing?
Oh no, let him explain.
Well, it's true.
But you said, hold on, before all of that, before your mind was cluttered with all that, what was you thinking?
Well, what you should also pay attention to is that before each one of them spoke, I think they mentioned that I had spoke on it before, and then it's what I said that triggered those thoughts in their minds. And I don't even remember what I said. I really don't remember what I said, but I was just pretty much saying that.
Said do you agree with
Now that you heard when Chef broke it down, right? Do you go with the fortunate or the blessing part?
Well, Chef already told you that I said the blessing part, and Ankh said the fortunate part.
So you fucking with the divine shit, right? You with the God shit.
He was in the middle of explaining.
I wasn't even thinking about it like that when I said it. I wasn't even thinking about it like that because I'm not like a God crazy person. So I wasn't even thinking about it like that. But it was still an interesting idea, and I guess the reason I thought it was interesting because the idea of God and then the idea of luck. Neither one of us can tell whether those things are really real. No one can say luck is really real, and no one can say God is really real. So in a sense, a blessing and being fortunate is really the same thing. They're really made up of that same substance of whatever they are, because no one can say they're really real. I don't know the difference between them. I think that even if you look up the definition for blessing, you'll see fortunate in there somewhere. If you look up the definition for fortunate, you'll see blessing in there somewhere.
What do you mean by you was blessed? You was blessed that our ancestors was enslaved. What did that mean? Why we keep going around the mulberry bush? What did you mean by that?
Like all of us, like right now, one of the things that I think all of us as parents, for example, like me as a father, I always want more for my kids than I have. Right. And I would be willing to go through some real hardships to make sure that my kids were better than me. And I can only hope that, you know, when my kids get whatever they get out of it, that they think of it as like a blessing. You know what I'm saying? That their dad went through that hardship that they didn't have to. So I guess it's that same sense that I'm in a position where I don't have to go through what they went through, and I'm kind of living the dream that they dreamt of. So it's that same kind of sense of being of kind of reaping the benefits of the struggles that my parents or my ancestors went through. It's like it's just that same type of a blessing that I don't have to experience that struggle that they experienced.
Bullshit, and you know it, but that shit sound good as a motherfucker. I'm gonna end it with that.
I want you to listen very, very carefully.
Tell the youth them to be strong. You can't tell the youth them to preach wrongs. While you try it on these lands, just remember every man is equal. Yeah. Each one teach one, and our Father God, him are the only God. So make we peace and reason. Smoke trees, span the ends, all the deep meds. Take a look at life, and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just, so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go. It's a government, no have no heart, them no care about poor people. Yeah, bigger heads no love people again. Them most are than little of them. You see friends now reason again. Vex through whistle of them. What time it hurt me to see how the face deal with the eagle and them. Regular me see it a pain. Regular me see it a pain. Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just, so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go. It's a government, no have no heart, them no care about poor people. Social commentary, drop that one, your principle, you don't know the global will come in.
Hey, peace once again. Thank y'all so much for stopping in to check out this video. I want to talk about this idea that I hear a lot of FBA people talking about, this idea of brain drain that's caused by Caribbean people when they leave their homeland to go somewhere else looking for better opportunities, especially economically. You know, there came to be a brain drain on that country that they are leaving and a brain gain on the country that they are going to. And, you know, because there's a brain drain on their homeland, you know, FBA people, you know, claim that what they're doing is a disservice to their home country and that they should stop this brain drain and go back to their homeland. You know, and of course they are foundational Black Americans, so they count America as their homeland. And so my question is, you know, do FBA ever leave their homeland? Or as they put it, do FBA ever flee their homeland for whatever reason? And when they flee their homeland, is there a brain drain on America when FBA leave the country? And you know, and my guess is yes, but you know how we do. I'm gonna throw it into ChatGPT just to see what it says and what comes back. The question I'm gonna ask is, what African American movements moved Blacks to Africa? Just focusing just on moving back to Africa. And I'm sure all of us know that since the beginning of time, Black people have been talking about going back to Africa, fleeing America and returning to Africa. So this is no surprise, or it shouldn't be a surprise to any of us, that FBA flee their homeland as well. And again, for whatever reason. But let's see what ChatGPT says about it. It says several African American movements throughout history have promoted or facilitated the migration of Black people to Africa. These movements were rooted in ideas of Pan-Africanism, self-determination, escape from racism, and reconnecting with ancestral homelands. Here are some key ones. So, you know, where FBA movement ideas are rooted around Pan-Africanism, self-determination, escape from racism, and reconnecting with ancestral homelands. Caribbean people and other immigrants leave their homeland mainly for economic opportunities. They're just trying to find a way to feed their families. That's their main concern. FBA, as we just saw, has a lot of other reasons why they choose to leave their country. And I think those reasons that FBA chooses to leave their country kind of speaks to whether or not when they leave, it's brain drain. So what we're seeing really is that when African Americans leave America, they really are fleeing. They're fleeing white supremacy, racism. That's what they're really fleeing, and they have no intentions on returning, really. They flee. When Jamaicans leave, they're not fleeing. When Jamaicans leave, it's a benefit to Jamaica because, you know, they send stuff back to Jamaica. And their intent, and that's what they intend on doing when Jamaicans leave. They intend on sending stuff back for their families and improving their families and communities. Not when FBA leave. When FBA leave, they flee. Yeah, but we'll talk about that a little more. So here are some key movements of African Americans fleeing America, their homeland. 1, American Colonization Society, ACS, in the early 1800s. It was founded in 1816. The goal was to resettle free African Americans in Africa. The outcome was that they helped to establish Liberia in 1822. While many African Americans were skeptical, seeing it as a way to remove free Blacks, others went voluntarily. So Black Americans voluntarily fled America for Liberia. And, you know, they went voluntarily. They fled voluntarily. And again, my question is, did that cause a brain drain on America? And, you know, did it cause a brain drain on America and a brain gain in Liberia? Not only did they flee America to go to Liberia, but they actually went to Liberia and colonized Liberia, right? I'm sure the Liberians or those natives in Liberia, in that part of Africa, didn't appreciate these FBAs coming in there and colonizing them. I'm sure they didn't appreciate that. You know, where they say Caribbean people go into a country and tether or leech off of them, FBA go into some other people's countries and colonize them. So, you know, you tell me which is worse and which side of history would you rather be on? But a second example of FBA leaving America, the Back to America movement in the 19th and early 20th centuries says a broad term encompassing various efforts encouraging African Americans to return to Africa. That's the Back to Africa movement. It's a broad term which encompasses various efforts that encourage African Americans to return to Africa. Leaders like Martin Delany and Henry Highland Garnett supported emigration in the 1800s, believing America would never fully accept Black people. So they felt America would never fully accept Black people, so they up and left. I don't know. Y'all tell me, FBA, was that a smart decision? Was that a wise decision on behalf of those people, those Black Americans that up and left because they said America would never fully accept Black people. If it was a good decision that they made, why haven't y'all made that decision? Why are you still here calling yourselves foundational? Why haven't y'all made that good decision that they made? And if it's a bad decision that they made, that explains why there was no brain drain. Because those people that were there weren't very smart, so there wasn't much of a brain drain. When FBA left America, they caused a brain drain on Liberia. Yeah, brain drain on Liberia and a brain gain in America. There was a gain where they left and a drain where they got to. And that sounds like it's a part of the difference between Caribbeans when they migrate and FBA when they migrate. Another reason, or another movement, Marcus Garvey and the UNIA, Universal Negro Improvement Association, in the 1910s to the 1920s. It was founded by Marcus Garvey. The goal was to promote Black pride, economic independence, and repatriation to Africa. Black pride, economic independence, and repatriation to Africa. Now you tell me, are any of those a better reason than the reasons that Caribbean people up and leave their homeland? You left your foundational homeland to go to Africa out of Black pride and to be economically independent. I don't see those as smart reasons to leave. And apparently most FBA don't either, because they're still here. So again, that may explain why there was no brain drain, because the people that left did not make a smart decision. That was not a smart decision. So I understand again why there was no brain drain. Marcus Garvey was famous for the Black Star Line, a shipping company intended to transport goods and people to Africa. Through the repatriation vision, though the repatriation vision didn't materialize fully, Garveyism deeply influenced Pan-Africanism. So, FBA were on board with Garvey, a Jamaican, but FBA were surely on board with him to flee America. And they did. And again, was there brain drain? Was there brain drain? A lot of people say Marcus scammed these Americans. But regardless of that, maybe because they were so scammable, there was no brain drain. No brain, no drain. But of course, I'm trolling a little bit. But the question does remain, was there brain drain? And why are y'all okay with that brain drain? Why is when you drain brain from America, it's okay? Why? The next one is the Nation of Islam and Elijah Muhammad. While not always explicitly pushing physical repatriation, the NOI emphasized separation from white society and often spoke of Africa as a spiritual homeland and ideal refuge. Sure enough, the history of hip hop. I did the series about the history of hip hop, where we spoke about the fifth element of knowledge, and that it's strictly about Islam, and their whole thing, whether it was NOI, the Nation of Islam, or the 5% Nation, their whole thing is separating from America. They either want their own state or they want to create their own, but their main thing is separating or fleeing. And is that a more noble reason to flee? Because you're going with the NOI, whatever the Nation of Islam's reasoning is for taking people to Africa. Is that more noble than what Caribbeans are doing, coming to America looking for economic opportunity? I think not. I don't think so. No. And all it's showing is that y'all flee for not very good reasons. FBA flee their homeland for some really silly reasons. Like this one, for example, like this NOI thing. What is the motivation for you to leave your country that you built to go with the Nation of Islam, a foreign religion, to a foreign country? That is, it's fleeing. Is it not fleeing? The next one is Pan-Africanism, especially post-World War II. It says, not a single movement, but a philosophy and a set of efforts across the diaspora. Leaders like W.E.B. Du Bois eventually moved to Ghana in 1961. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana actively welcomed diaspora Africans back to Africa in the 1950s and 60s. So through Pan-Africanism, FBA have been fleeing America and going into Ghana. Fleeing America, going into wherever in Africa would take them. Is there a brain drain when they do that? Is there a brain drain? That's the question. I believe that if one teacher leaves Jamaica to come to America to teach, that's brain drain on Jamaica for one teacher. One. And so, this argument of, there's so many people leaving, that's why it's a brain drain. Y'all can make that argument if you want. But in my estimation, when individuals leave, given how skilled they are, and given the fact that they are leaving because they are skilled and they're invited because they're skilled, when individuals leave, it causes a brain drain on Jamaica. But apparently when individuals leave America, when individual Black Americans leave America, it doesn't cause a brain drain because these are not skilled people that are leaving America. These people are not leaving America to go somewhere else with a skill to earn money. They are leaving America for silly, nonsensical reasons that adds nothing to the economy of the place that they are going to. Nothing at all. So this excuse of, there's just so many, that's why, no, we ain't falling for that. The reason you don't cause a brain drain is because you are not moving with a skill with an intention of utilizing that skill. Because, Caribbean people that leave their homeland, leave again, looking for economic opportunity. And these are people that are skilled, and they come here with a particular skill set that is sought after here. Most of the Caribbean people that come here are invited here because of their skills. When FBA flees or fled to Ghana, they weren't fleeing with any skills. They were pretty much just fleeing and then seeing what would happen when they got there. Most of them ain't like when they got there. When they got there, they was like, yo, let me go back home. And so I don't know how thought out it was. And so again, I don't know how much of a brain drain it was on America. Because the decision to move to Ghana under Pan-Africanism is a horrible decision. Doesn't take much brains, or it doesn't take people with brains to make that decision. So there must not have been brain drain. The only reason you could make fun of and tell people that they're doing a brain drain is if when you leave, there is no brain drain. That could be the only reason why you're telling people to stop leaving. Because you haven't stopped leaving America, so you must not think there's a brain drain. And it doesn't appear that there is much of any. The next one, African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem. African Americans who migrated to Israel starting in the late 1960s believe they are descendants of the ancient Israelites. Though not to Africa directly, they represent a diaspora migration motivated by spiritual and cultural identity. So y'all fled to Israel claiming to be Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem. Again, when Caribbean people leave their homeland to come to America, they are welcomed here because they're skilled people, and they're most of the time they are invited here to work. FBA aren't invited to Israel as Black Hebrews. I don't know how welcome they are in Israel as Black Hebrews. And again, we all know that this Black Hebrew idea is pseudo. So there can't be a brain drain when these people leave, can there? Is there a brain drain? I'm not so sure. Modern day repatriation and Ghana's year of return 2019. This is the last one that GPT speaks about. Probably the most important one. Ghana's year of return 2019. And it's still going on. Like it says the year of return, but people are still moving, fleeing America to move to Ghana today. He says it sparked renewed interest in African Americans reconnecting with Africa. Ghana granted citizenship to dozens of African Americans and encouraged diaspora investment and migration. Granted citizenship to dozens of African Americans, dozens of them. I've said before that in my estimation, one Jamaican leaving and taking his skills with them is a brain drain on Jamaica. So I don't see why dozens of FBA leaving shouldn't cause a brain drain on America, unless they're just not skilled. FBA really, for the most part, don't want to leave America to go to Africa. They really don't. Because they have economic opportunity here. If there was no economic opportunity in America, trust that FBA would be leaving. They would. Just like they accuse Caribbean people of moving here for economic opportunity. If there was none here, they would leave. How do we know that? Because when there's no economic opportunity in their state, guess what they do? They leave their state. They don't stay there and fix it up. They leave. FBA have no problems leaving their home state. They fled the South in what has been known as the Great Migration, and there have been 2 Great Migrations. I did a show about entitled FBA Our Tethers To, about the Great Migration. If you have a chance, please check out that video. But any chance FBA gets, they flee. So don't make them have you thinking FBA don't flee, because FBA flee at the drop of the dime. They leave their state to go to a different state for economic reasons, and they leave their country to go to another country for some silly reason. They think they're the original Israelites. They think they're the original Egyptians. They've moved to Egypt, claiming to be the original Egyptians. FBA flee their homeland, and for silly reasons. So, excuse me if I'm not impressed with your brain drain argument. It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. You flee your home state for the same reason we flee our home country. And you flee your home country for reasons that we wouldn't flee our home country. And these are facts. Everybody leaves for economic reasons. Everybody leaves for economic reasons. When you flee your state for economic reasons, there's a brain drain on your state. And if you claim there's not, then you don't think very highly of yourself. But immigration causes a brain drain, whether it's international immigration or within states, there's still a brain drain. States don't love when people leave their states. No state wants that. So their argument also is that not enough African Americans leave America to cause a brain drain. Their argument is that the amount of Jamaicans that leave Jamaica is so large compared to the population of Jamaica that that's what creates the brain drain, right? And that the percentage of people, of Black Americans that leave America is so small that it doesn't have the effect that the Jamaican fleeing has. There's no brain drain. You know, where only, like, let's say 5,000 Americans will leave America every year. Something like 25,000 Jamaicans will leave Jamaica each year. And so because those Jamaican numbers are so big, that's where the brain drain is. And so, you know, when 1,000 Americans leave America, it really doesn't cause much of a problem. Because, you know, America gets to replace those people quite easily. And our population is so big that we don't really feel it. But Jamaica's population is so small. When 25,000 leave a year, they definitely feel it. And if that's true, you know, what I would say is that during the first Great Migration, and again, I spoke about this in the FBA Artethers 2 video, but during the first migration, which is a 30-year span between 1910 and 1940, close to 2 million African Americans, or FBA, left the South for the North. Almost 2 million within a 30-year span. So, and during that time, roughly about 50,000 Americans, or FBA, left the South every year. 50,000 left the South every year between 1910 and 1930. And no brain drain? No brain drain at all. I mean, if that doesn't cause a brain drain, 50,000? I know the South is big, but man, 50,000? During the second Great Migration, between 1940 and 1970, almost 5, or rather at least 5 million Black Americans moved from the South to the North. 5 million in a 30-year span. That's almost 170,000 a year. 170,000 people every year move from the South to the North. And this is 1940 to 1970, and still no brain drain on the South. Half of the population, half of the Negro population of the South moved from the South to the North during those 2 migrations. Half of the population. And still no brain drain? That's still not enough? America still was able to handle your loss? Why is that? How? Is it because for the most part they were uneducated? I mean, I'm asking. Where is that brain drain? How is it that half of your population moved from down south and there's no brain drain? What does that say? Is there no effect to America because they stayed inside of America? That's your argument. There's no brain drain in America. There's no brain drain in America because they moved from the south of America to the north of America. But surely there had to be a drain on the south. Half of the population left and no drain on the south. Half of y'all, like, you're telling me that if 1/2 of the population, of the black population of one state, let's say 1/2 of the black population of New York State moved out of New York, you're telling me there'll be no drain on New York? No brain drain? New York will just be able to draft people from other states, the drop of a hat? Are you that indispensable? Or rather, are you that dispensable? There must be a drain when 1/2 of the population of any geographic leaves. There must be an effect when 1/2 of any demographic group leaves. And if there's no effect on your state or states when 1/2 of y'all leave, what does that say about y'all? And, what's interesting is that after that 60-year period, after that 60-year period takes us up to the civil rights movement. And then it was after the civil rights movement that FBA started moving back down south, right? So after 1/2 of their population moved from the south to the north, apparently the south started to improve to the point where FBA moved back. So I guess there was no brain drain. If 1/2 of your population left and the South started to improve after 1/2 of the FBA population left, what does that say about FBA? Because they had to move back. So y'all would have to answer those questions. Those are the questions y'all will have to answer for your silly brain drain concept. And if your argument is going to come down to when FBA leaves anywhere, there's no brain drain. That's the argument you're really banking on. Imagine that. That's the argument you're banking on. There's no effect on America when FBA leave. That's your argument. When 1/2 of the FBA population left the South, damn near 6 million, close to 7 million people left. When 1/2 of them left FBA, when 1/2 of them left the South to come north, there was no brain drain. And when thousands of them leave to go to Israel, acting like they're the original Israelites, there's no brain drain. When they return to Ghana, there's no brain drain. Regardless of the size, apparently, there's no brain drain. Regardless of how many FBA leave America, there's no brain drain. And let me say this as well. If 20%, let's say 20,000 Jamaicans leave Jamaica every year, is there a benefit to Jamaica? How does it benefit Jamaica when 20,000 of its people leave every year? And the main benefit to Jamaica is in the remittances that are sent home from those Jamaicans leaving Jamaica. Those remittances account for 20% of Jamaica's GDP. 20% of Jamaica's GDP. Right? And that 20,000 people accounts for less than 1% of the population. So the less than 1% of the population that leaves Jamaica accounts for 20% of Jamaica's GDP. What percent of Jamaica's GDP what percent of America's GDP does the people that leave America account for? When FBA leave America, do they still add to America's GDP? Because America is their homeland. Do they? My guess is no. And if it does, it's very minimal. It's not 20% of the GDP. It cannot be 20% of the GDP. FBA doesn't add 1% to America's GDP. If they add anything, it's about 1%. FBA adds about 1% to America's GDP. That's the FBA that stays in America. So the ones that leave ain't adding nothing. So leaving Jamaica has advantages for Jamaica, huge advantages. You know, the main advantages are the remittances that are sent. You know, these funds support family members with their education, their housing, healthcare. It also helps, you know, Jamaicans start small businesses, and it just helps with local consumption. It just helps them with their local economy, buying goods. It also, there's a lot of investment when Jamaicans leave Jamaica. They invest in real estate. We buy and build homes in Jamaica. We invest in Jamaica in terms of tourism and hospitality businesses. We start a lot of hospitality businesses in Jamaica, and we invest in them. And we also invest in agriculture and a lot of agricultural startups. We also have a lot of skills transfer and knowledge exchange. Jamaicans who live abroad return temporarily, sometimes permanently, with advanced skills, global experience, and business networks. I mentioned tourism before. Diaspora Jamaicans in the diaspora or outside of Jamaica are among the most loyal and frequent visitors to the island. And I'm still reading ChatGPT, and what ChatGPT sees as the advantages or benefits of Jamaicans leaving Jamaica. We boost tourism revenue when we travel for family reunions, cultural festivals, or when we just retire. And many of us have dual residency. Global influence and soft power. Jamaicans abroad in music, sports, academia raise the global profile of Jamaica. This increases cultural influence, brand recognition, and even policy support. For example, they lobby in the US or UK for Jamaican interests. And so in summary, according to ChatGPT, while Jamaica loses talent, it gains billions in remittances, diaspora engagement, and global influence. And the key challenge is how to balance the benefits with the strategies to retain and return talent. So again, when Jamaicans leave Jamaica, they have Jamaica on their mind. So this talk of when Jamaicans leave, they don't think about Jamaica is nonsense. When Jamaicans leave Jamaica, Jamaica stays on their mind. And they're always investing back in Jamaica. And that cannot be said about FBA. When FBA leave America, they flee. They don't invest back in America because the reasons they're fleeing because of racism and white supremacy. They're fleeing because they don't like their country and they want to get out of it. The main reason FBA flee America is because they don't like America. Jamaicans leave Jamaica because they love Jamaica and they want to see it get better. and they go back all the time. Jamaicans visit Jamaica. Jamaicans that leave visit Jamaica all the time. That's not true for FBA that flee America. They never want to return. And that's a difference that is significant and cannot be downplayed. When foundational Black Americans leave America, there is no benefit to America unless, I guess there is a benefit to America. America gets to lose some people that America would probably rather not have. I mean, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me what the benefit is to America, to your homeland when y'all leave. We leave our homeland intending to benefit our homeland. Americans leave their homeland, their wonderful foundational homeland that they built, they leave it with no intentions of fixing it or benefiting it. None at all. But they built it. This is how we know they didn't build it. Because when they leave, they leave. They're done. And so to summarize, they can't say that leaving a state from one state to another. When FBA left the South, they left in droves, millions of them. This was probably the greatest migration ever. Over 170,000 every year left the South. Right, those southern states. 170,000 every year. And their claim is that there was no brain drain because they're only going from one state to another and America is still benefiting. I mean, okay. So as long as you know that Jamaica still benefits when Jamaicans leave. Jamaica benefits more when Jamaicans leave than America benefits when FBA moves from the South to the North. When FBA move from the South to the North, they do not add 20% to America's GDP. They do not. FBA do not add 20% to America's GDP. They don't. Like I said, I don't think they add over 1%. If 6 to 7 million FBA left southern states to go to northern states, and there was no drain on those northern states, that can only mean that FBA added no value to those southern states. That could be the only thing it means. If there's no drain on those southern states when half of the FBA population left, then the FBA population was adding no value to the South. So is that what y'all are saying? That can't be what y'all are saying. That cannot be what you're saying. I don't agree with that at all. But that's what y'all are saying when you want to make this stupid argument. You're making the claim that FBA adds no value. So when they leave, there's no loss. When they go from one state to another, there's no loss to the state. And when FBA leave the country, there's no loss to the country either. Nor is there a benefit to the country because they don't benefit in terms of getting something back. They don't send back remittances. They don't invest in America. There's just no advantage when FBA. There are no benefits when FBA either leave their state or leave their country. That is the argument that FBA are making. That's your argument. That's not my argument. That's your brain drain argument. And y'all want to stick to it, knock yourselves out. Is there a brain gain when FBA move to Ghana searching for their ancestral homeland? Is there a brain gain for Ghana? Is there a brain gain for Israel when FBA moved to Israel claiming to be the original Black Hebrews? Is there a brain gain when FBA moved to anywhere in Africa or the Middle East with the NOI? Is there a brain gain to those places? I guess we'd have to ask those places, but I don't know. I don't know. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's no brain gain when they go to another country, no brain drain when they leave America. There's no brain drain when FBA leave, and there's no brain gain when FBA arrive. That's your argument. That's not my argument. That is your argument. And you apparently are sticking with it. So yeah, I think I've said enough. You know the routine. Hit the like button, subscribe, be notified, and we're gonna catch you on the next one. Y'all be good. Blessings.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty.
I can feel,
recognize royalty,
I can see,
recognize royalty,
now I recognize
royalty,
royalty inside.
royalty,
I can see,
recognize royalty,
I can love
recognize royalty,
now I recognize.
Recognize it.
Royalty,
I recognize passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. Never just the man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work, working with the man? It's the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the highest of prizes, no sins. Recognize the king's overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it.
I can see,
yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty,
I can see,
I see it.
I can love again.
I'm in love now. I recognize your passion.
Royalty,
Recognize royalty. Sunrise royally. Sitting on top of the world. I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Orally, we pop dumb things till we stop the impurity. We pop them just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I reel in men when I went out fishing. I tell you why they rocked the boat, cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? Choose the Jews' crucifixion and refuse recognition at son child's christening in the mix amid some. Insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back above me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too.
I can feel you.
I feel it.
I can see,
I can see it. I recognize now.
Royalty
it's your royalty.
I can see,
I see it.
I can love again.
And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion.
Royalty,
Royalty.
And right then, as a 13, 14-year-old, I was like, okay, that's where I want to go to school. Sight unseen. I didn't know a lot about Howard at the time. And that's how I ended up going to the Mecca. It's the only school I applied to. I didn't apply to the University of South Carolina. I didn't apply to Duke or North Carolina. I was going to go to Howard, or I was going to go nowhere. And fortunate enough, I was able to get into Howard, and it changed my life in a lot of ways. Welcome to another episode of I Take Your Point podcast. I'm John Dunson, joined by my lovely co-host, Len. Last name is
What's happening? Blessings to everyone on our deal with.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty.
I can feel,
recognize royalty,
I can see,
recognize royalty,
now I recognize
royalty,
royalty inside.
royalty,
I can see,
recognize royalty,
I can love,
recognize royalty,
now I recognize.
I recognize it.
Royalty,
I recognize passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just the man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work? Working with the man, or is the ring of royalty? Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. As gold already blings from the highest that prizes no sins. Recognize the king's overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it.
I can see,
yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty.
I can see,
I see it.
I can love again.
Now I'm in love now.
I
I recognize your passion.
Royalty.
Recognize royalty.
Hey, welcome back once again. Thank you for joining me. Today we are talking about the Great Migration. The idea is that FBA, Foundational Black Americans, are tethers too. And so, we're gonna talk about the Great Migration. African Americans are migrants as well. And as certainly as they consider Caribbean and African immigrants as people who come here trying to take what they have earned. There was a time when they were considered to be that. They were considered to be the tethers who were coming to take what they hadn't earned. And so that's what we're gonna try and talk about today, if you will bear with me. So the title of today's show is FBA Are Tethers Too. All right, so, as usual, we're going to wiki and see what we can see. We're going to be reading about the Great Migration today. It says the Great Migration, sometimes known as the Great Northward Migration or the Black Migration, was the movement of 6 million African Americans out of the rural southern United States to the urban Northeast, Midwest, and West between 1910 and 1970. It was substantially caused by poor economic and social conditions due to prevalent racial segregation and discrimination in the southern states where Jim Crow laws were upheld. And again, right off the bat, we see that there are millions of people moving. 6 million African Americans moved from the rural South to the urban North. And is that not the story of Caribbean immigrants as well, people who move from rural places into those big urban centers because of economic reasons, because of poor economics and social conditions. Isn't that really why all immigrants move? And what we're seeing here is a large, I don't know if I don't know if 6 million of anyone ever moved to America. So African Americans that was a huge migration. That's a great migration. And so African Americans themselves are migrants. So, and I'm just wondering right off the bat, the argument that they like to make with Caribbean people is that we should have stayed in our countries and fixed up our countries. Why did we not stay in our country and fix up our country? Why did we run away? Right? So why did African Americans run away from the South? Why did y'all not stay in the South and fix it up? Why don't y'all go back to the South and fix up the South? The South still today, cities in the South today are among the worst in America. So why don't y'all go back to the South and fix up the place? The same way y'all demand that Caribbean people go back to where they came from and fix it up. Why don't y'all do the same thing? And why don't y'all realize that y'all are not doing anything differently? Your motives are no different from the motives of the immigrants that came from the Caribbean or South or Africa. We were all looking for better economic conditions than where we found ourselves after slavery. And so your decision to move to the North was no different from a Caribbean immigrant's decision to move to the North as well. So we're both in the same position. And so now for you to think you have more claim than anyone else is just really ridiculous. And the reason it's ridiculous is because when y'all were moving, people tended to believe y'all had no claim either. So y'all are in the same position that you were putting other people in. You're doing to your fellow Black immigrants what the white workers did to you. That's what you're really doing. You're behaving like those white people that didn't welcome you to the North. The same way you were unwelcomed in the North by white folks is how you want immigrants to feel unwelcome here. And that's pretty shameful. All right, and it goes on to say, where was I? It was substantially caused by poor economic and social conditions due to prevalent racial segregation and discrimination in the southern states where Jim Crow laws were upheld. In particular, continued lynchings motivated a portion of the migrants as African Americans searched for social reprieve. The historic change brought by the migration was amplified because the migrants, for the most part, moved to the then largest cities in the United States: New York City, Chicago, Detroit, LA, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Cleveland, and Washington, D.C. At a time when those cities had essential cultural, social, political, and economic influence over the United States. There, African Americans established culturally influential communities of their own. According to Isabel Wilkerson, despite the losses they felt leaving their homes in the South, and despite the barriers which the migrants faced in their new homes, the migration was an act of individual and collective agency, which changed the course of American history, a declaration of independence, which was written by their actions. And why can't that be said of immigrants from the Caribbean? Isn't that the same exact thing that they were doing? They left everything they owned to come here as well, looking for something better. And whether it was racial discrimination or whatever was happening where they were, it was still an issue, regardless of what it was. They left their homes and came here as well, and created their own communities, created communities that they considered to be their own. And they were invited here as well. They didn't just come
just to see what was happening. They too were invited. The same way immigrants are invited today to come here and work is the same way those immigrants were invited to come to the North to find work as well. No different. And people came from the Caribbean, people were coming from down south, people were coming from everywhere to come to New York, to come to America in those northern industrial cities to find work. So the immigrants are in the same exact position as those African Americans or FBA. It says, from the earliest US population statistics in 1780 until 1910, more than 90% of the African American population lived in the American South, making up the majority of the population in 3 southern states, namely Louisiana, South Carolina, and Mississippi. But by the end of the Great Migration, just over half of the African American population lived in the South, while a little less than half lived in the North and West. That was a great migration. Almost half of African Americans moved out of the South, just left. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's half of Jamaicans that moved to the North. I don't think it was half of the Caribbean that moved here. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. But, you know, again, why did y'all not choose to do what you ask Caribbean immigrants to do? Why did y'all not stay and fix up the place? Why did y'all run away? Why don't y'all still go back and fix up the place? You know, but I digress. Let's see what else it says. It says, but by the end of the Great Migration, just over half of the African American population lived in the South, while a little less than half lived in the North and West. Moreover, the African American population had become highly urbanized. In 1900, only 1/5 of African Americans in the South were living in urban areas. By 1960, half of the African Americans in the South lived in urban areas. And by 1970, more than 80% of African Americans nationwide lived in cities. In 1991, Nicholas Lemann wrote, "The Great Migration was one of the greatest and most rapid mass internal movements in history. Perhaps the greatest not caused by the immediate threat of execution or starvation. In sheer numbers, it outranks the migration of any other immigrant, of any other ethnic group. In sheer numbers, it outranks the migration of any other ethnic group, Italians or Irish or Jews or Poles to the United States. So again, y'all moved from where you were for the same exact reason that immigrants from everywhere else was moving from where they were, to find something better. And they didn't stay and fix up the place. Immigrants from the Caribbean didn't stay and fix up the Caribbean for the exact same reason that y'all didn't stay in the South and fix up the South. So when you make that claim, you have to answer that question as well. Why didn't you stay and fix up the place? Fix up your state. Okay, so you're saying, oh, it's your country. Fine. Immigrants are coming into a new country. You're moving within your country. Immigrants should have stayed and fixed up their country. You should have stayed and fixed up your state. Why did you run away from your state? Why not fix it up? Why not go back? Half of the people that moved from their state still refuse to go back there. The same way immigrants from the Caribbean and Africa refuse to go back to Africa and the Caribbean, American migrants refuse to go back to the South where they came from for the same exact reason. So y'all have no more noble cause, no more rights than they do. I mean, in terms of right to do what they did, none at all. Y'all are in the same position, in the same boat. It says, for Black people, the migration meant leaving what had always been their economic and social base in America and finding a new one. That is also true of Caribbeans and African immigrants. They left their social base, they left their homes to come and create a new one. But but the insecurities, the fear, all of that they experienced as well, of moving to a new place where nothing is certain. All of that was frightening to them, just as frightening as it was to the African American who was moving from the South to the North. So all migrants were in the same frame of mind and had the same motives to do what they were trying to do. It says some historians analyze the Great Migration in two parts. A first Great Migration from 1910 to 1940, during which about 1.6 million people moved from mostly rural areas in the South to northern industrial cities, and a second Great Migration from 1940 to 1970, which began after the Great Depression and during it. At least 5 million, including townspeople with urban skills, moved to the north and west. And again, that outranked anywhere else. That outranked any other immigrants. And, they weren't welcome either. The same way y'all are trying to make Caribbean immigrants and African immigrants feel unwelcome is the same playbook that you are taking from the white folks that made you feel uncomfortable and unwelcome. Y'all are taking from the playbook of the racists. Like, that's literally what y'all are doing. Literally. Since the Civil Rights Movement, the trend has reversed, with more African Americans moving to the South, albeit far more slowly, dubbed the New Great Migration. These moves were generally spurred by the economic difficulties of cities in the northeastern and midwestern United States, growth of jobs in the New South, and its lower cost of living, family and kinship ties, and lessening discrimination. So, when the North started to have its economic difficulties, Black people started moving. They left again instead of trying to fix up the place. So it looks like instead of trying to fix up anywhere, y'all just move from one place to the other. Soon as one place goes down, y'all move to find where something else is booming. Kind of the same thing that immigrants do. Yes, the same thing that immigrants do. So y'all are on no high ground here. Nobody is on a high ground here. We're all doing the same exact thing, moving, trying to catch that bouncing ball of economic prosperity. That's what everyone is trying to do. All right, so the next thing they do is they go into the causes of the Great Depression. The Great Depression, the causes of the Great Migration. And that's what we'll talk about next. So it says the primary factors for migration among Southern African Americans were segregation, indentured servitude, convict leasing, an increase in the spread of racist ideology, widespread lynching. Nearly 3,500 African Americans were lynched between 1882 and 1968, and lack of social and economic opportunities in the South. 3,500 African Americans lynched between 1882 and 1968. I wonder if any of those were Caribbean Blacks. Were Caribbean Blacks lynched as well, or were these just African FBA people? Did they make that much of a distinction back then between African Americans and Caribbean Blacks? Did the white folks even make a distinction? Did they reserve their discrimination to just the African Americans, or did they discriminate also against Caribbean Americans, Caribbean Blacks and African Blacks? Did they make a distinction in their discrimination, or were all Black people, victim of what was going on here? It says some factors pulled migrants to the North. Yeah, and I get just to reiterate, the reason I'm saying that I'm trying to figure out of that 3,500, what they say African Americans that were lynched, were any of them Caribbeans? Were any of them just African migrants? Is that possible, or are these just FBA? Who knows? I'm gonna say, it's very possible in my view. I don't see why they couldn't have been Black Caribbeans in that mix of people who were lynched. Um, and so I'm not sure why that could not be Caribbean history as well, or the history of Caribbean immigrants in America. Um, so where was I? Some factors pulled migrants to the north, such as labor shortages in northern factories brought about by World War I, resulting in thousands of jobs in steel mills, railroads, meat packing plants, and the automobile industry. The pull of jobs in the North was strengthened by the efforts of labor agents sent by Northern businessmen to recruit Southern workers. Northern companies offered special incentives to encourage Black workers to relocate, including free transportation and low-cost housing. Um, And that's being done today in the Caribbean. There are companies that go to the Caribbean to recruit workers. The American government even gives out work visas of recruiting people to come to the North and work. So that was happening back then as well, I would assume. I don't see why not. Why would Caribbeans be making that long trek if they also weren't being offered work opportunities there like they are being offered today? So, the story of the Caribbean immigrant to America seems very parallel and very similar to the story of the African American migrant to the North. It's the same story. So if one of them is a tether, then the other one is also a tether. We a bunch of tethers in a pod. During World War I, there was a decline in European immigrants, which slowed the supply of workers for northern factories. So those northern factories were supplied by immigrant European workers. And then once the war broke out and those workers were sent to Europe to fight in World War I, there were job openings. And so those companies went to the South to recruit Black workers. Around 1.2 million European immigrants arrived during 1914, while only 300,000 arrived the next year. So because of the war, the numbers of immigrants were reduced drastically. But those immigrants were the major source of the employment in those northern factories. Save World War I, if there was no World War I, the Great Migration would likely not have occurred, because those industries in the North were being supplied by European immigrants. That's where the labor was coming from. The enlistment of workers into the military had also affected the labor supply. This created a wartime opportunity in the North for African Americans, as the Northern industry sought a new labor supply from the South. There were many advantages for Northern jobs compared to Southern jobs, including wages that could be double or more. That was what the Caribbean immigrants saw themselves, is the increase in their wages. That's why they moved. Same reason the Southern Blacks moved. The Southern sharecropping system and agricultural depression, the Southern sharecropping system and agricultural depression, the widespread infestation of the cotton boll weevil, and flooding also provided motivation for African Americans to move into the northern cities. And again, if we study the history of what's happening in the Caribbean, I'm sure you're going to see parallels of this as well, where there's just stuff going on that there are economic things happening in their countries and they chose to leave looking for a better life. And they didn't just choose to leave to just anywhere. They chose to go where they were invited. Those northern companies were inviting Caribbean workers as well. It says the South's pervasive exclusion of African Americans from political power, their lack of representation, and a dearth of social opportunities in a culture regulated by Jim Crow laws also motivated African Americans to migrate northward. So why didn't you just fix up the place? Why did you run away from your state, from your home? Why didn't you stay and fix up the place? It sure was a mess. The first Great Migration, 1910 to 1940. When the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1863, less than 8% of the African American population lived in the northeastern or midwestern United States. This began to change over the next decade to such an extent that a U.S. Senate committee ordered an investigation into the causes of the mass migration from the South during the preceding decade, especially to Kansas, where many sought refuge. In 1900, about 90% of Black Americans still lived in southern states. Between 1910 and 1930, the African American population increased by 40% in the northern states as a result of the migration, mostly in the major cities. The cities of Philadelphia, Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, Baltimore, and New York City had some of the biggest increases in the early part of the 20th century. Tens of thousands of Black workers were recruited for industrial jobs, such as positions related to the expansion of the Pennsylvania Railroad. Because changes were concentrated in the cities, which had also attracted millions of new or recent European migrants, which had also attracted millions of new or recent European immigrants, tensions rose as the people competed for jobs and scarce housing. Tensions were often most severe between ethnic Irish defending their recently gained positions and territory and recent immigrants and Black people. So here we have it. The tensions were between those Irish who felt like they were defending their positions, because these were the positions that from their perspective, they left their positions to go fight in a war. And when they came back, they wanted their jobs back. When they came back, their jobs were being filled by migrants. In their view, these were Southerners, Southern Blacks nonetheless. And they were like, we want our jobs back. We just went fighting for this country. Y'all weren't the ones fighting for the country, and we want our jobs back. Get out of here. That was their view. And it sounds very similar, the same way those white folks felt like these Blacks were taking their stuff. It's the same way now Black folks think Black immigrants are taking their stuff and creating this tension about it. But where white folks were complaining that we were taking their jobs, FBA is complaining that we're taking their reparations. It would be one thing. It would be one thing if they were complaining that we were taking their jobs and the opportunities. But their main concern is reparations. They don't want us to have reparations, which is something that they have not earned. So reparations isn't something you earn. Reparations is just something you're granted. So at least the white folks' position was more noble in that sense. They felt like y'all were taking their jobs and they wanted to work. You just think people are just taking your free stuff. And that's a major difference. And that, in my estimation, that kind of makes your position worse and less noble, in my estimation. Tensions and violence. With the migration of African Americans northward and the mixing of white and Black workers in factories, the tension was building, largely driven by white workers. And I'm wondering if, I'm not even wondering anymore, because, it says that the issue that these Irish workers were having was with recent immigrants and Black people. And so I don't think they separated Black immigrants from African Americans. When they had their issues, the Black immigrants were classed with the FBA migrants. I don't imagine that an Irish person complaining about his job being taken gave a crap about the difference between a Black immigrant from Jamaica or an African American from down south. I don't care. I don't think he made the distinction. They were just all Black people to him who were trying to take his job. And the tensions were felt by both groups, by those Black immigrants and the African American migrant, because they were all immigrants. They were all immigrants and people who did not belong there as far as the Irish were concerned. They were all the same people. Even when this article speaks about African Americans, sometimes I feel like it's including Black immigrants from the Caribbean. When it says African Americans, for example, were lynched 3,500, who knows whether Black Caribbean immigrants were included in there? You know, are we going to say that no Caribbean Black person was lynched during the Jim Crow era? How do, or does anyone have facts about that? If I had to guess, I would say, sure, I could see where that happens. It's not as if today, when there's racism is only relegated to FBA. Like a racist asks you first if you're Caribbean or not, then decides whether to discriminate against you. So all of this stuff that's going on with these tensions were also being felt by Black immigrants. And apparently by even recent white immigrants, because these Irish folks were possibly against white immigrants from Scotland, immigrants from everywhere who were trying to take their jobs. However, you know, given that the Black migration from the South was so huge, and it was bigger than any other migration, you know, I guess I can assume that their ire was more towards Black folks than anything else, because there was a lot of them out of nowhere, you know. But again, I don't think they made the distinction between immigrant or migrant, between a Caribbean and a Southern Black. I just don't think that they made that distinction. All right, so it says the AFL, the American Federation of Labor, advocated the separation between European Americans and African Americans in the workplace. There were nonviolent protests, such as walkouts in protest of having Blacks and whites working together, whether it's a Black migrant from the South or a Black immigrant from the Caribbean or Africa. I don't think these white folks made a distinction. It's not as if the Black immigrants from the Caribbean, they were like, oh, these are good. These are good. It's just the Southern Blacks that we don't like. I don't necessarily believe that. So there were tensions. We all received the ire of these white folks who were upset about the losses they were having. The AFL, the American Federation of Labor, advocated the separation between European Americans and African Americans in the workplace. There were nonviolent protests, such as walkouts in protest of having Blacks and whites working together. As tension was building due to advocating for segregation in the workplace, violence soon erupted. Yeah, so, you know, it's about to get crazy. It's about to get crazy. And again, they were against Blacks and whites working together, whether it was Black immigrants from the Caribbean or that wasn't their issue. They were concerned. Their main concern was their position and their communities. And so, you know, that's where the tension started. And it reminds me of the tension that exists today between FBA and Black Caribbean immigrants and Black immigrants from everywhere. You know, but again, this time, it's not about us taking their jobs. It's about us taking their reparations and their affirmative action and their food stamps. That's really what this is about. Yeah, so let's I'm gonna take a quick little break. And then we're gonna continue. So let's take a commercial break and then we'll come back to this awesome lesson.
I want you to listen very, very carefully.
Just because we're black, they say we are slaves. Speak of righteousness, they say we are praise. Just because we're black, they say we are slaves. Speak of righteousness, they say we are praise. Brought us from the motherland in bondage and chains. Bury our culture and change our names. They claim we're free, yet we are in pain. As long as there's life, there's a lot to gain. Just because we're black, they say we are slaves. Speak of righteousness, they say we are praise. Just because we're black, they say we are slaves. Speak of righteousness, they say we are praise. When God spoke his words, they said he was deranged. Marley sung his songs, they said the same. Malcolm X and Martin Luther fought relentlessly so we could be better. Just because we're black, they say we are slaves. Speak of righteousness, they say we are praise. Just because we're black, they say we are slaves. Speak of righteousness, they say we are praise. Brought us from the motherland in bondage and chains. Bury our culture and change our names. They claim we're free, yet we are in pain. As long as there's life, there's a lot to gain. Just because we're black, they say we are